Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad Tehami. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has reiterated his resolve to make Pakistan a great nation by following the China's development model. Addressing the Pakistan-China Friendship and Business Forum, the Prime Minister said, let me quote, "We will follow your model, work hard untiringly, put in our sweat and blood and make Pakistan a great country," unquote. Also recalling the China's swift development journey, the Prime Minister said all Pakistanis will have to pass through this thorny process. There is no other way to earn respect in the world. The Prime Minister also made a solemn pledge to put in all the measures and arrangements in order to ensure the safety and the security of the Chinese workers and the nationals working here in Pakistan. As we all know that Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is on a 5-day official visit in China along with a high-level delegation on the invitation of Chinese President Mr. Xi Jinping and Premier Li Qiang, and he's also expected to meet President Xi Jinping and hold delegation-level talks with Premier Li Qiang. Now, until now, during this particular tour, the Prime Minister had very important and significant interactions and engagements, which include meeting with the Chairman China International Cooperation Agency, meeting with the chairman of the Chinese Exim Bank, and meeting with the chairman of the China's Northern Industry Corporation. Also meeting with the chairman of the Power China. Also visit of the Science Park in the Silicon Valley and visit to the telecom giant Huawei. Also, Minister of Privatization and Board of Investment Abdul Aleem Khan has informed that 32 MOUs have been signed at the Pakistan-China Business Forum. This very important tour of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif to China, lots of engagements, reinvigoration of the China-Pakistan economic corridor, transition from the first phase to the second phase. We'll be taking all these important happenings of a discussion in today's show. For that, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Dr. Fida Bazai. He's expert in international relations. Dr. Bazai, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. On Skype at the same time, we are honored to have been joined by Dr. Yasir Masood. He is foreign affairs expert and former director, media and publications at CPAC Center of Excellence. Dr. Masood, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Bazai, let me begin the discussion with you. When we talk about following the model of development of China for prosperity, progress and development, making Pakistan a great country, to have that position regained in the Committee of Nations, as very categorically stated by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif during his address at the Pakistan-China Friendship and Business Forum. I want you to shed a little bit of light how this development model of China worked. How did it evolve over the years?
Thank you, Jawad, for inviting me to speak on this important subject. It is important to understand that Chinese model has done a miracle. In the last 60 years, they have totally transformed their economy, they have transformed their society, they have transformed their industry and agriculture. So China is the only country in this region that has totally surprised the entire world with its industrial output, with its advancement in technology, with its advancement in education. So now it is altogether standing apart from the rest of the world. So Chinese model was very simple. It at the beginning in 1978, when it started opening its market for international investment, it exclusively focused on economic growth. Consecutively for 60 years, they did not deviate their attention from economic growth, from industrialization, from their investment in agriculture, their investment in IT, their investment in education system. That is how they have transformed their entire system.
Education, IT, industrialization, agriculture, name it, every single sector comes into this particular ambit. Now, what's there for Pakistan? As Prime Minister has said that this is going to be difficult, but it's not impossible. So every Pakistani has to go through this particular thorny process. So what's there for Pakistan to learn, and how Pakistan can replicate this model of development from China?
Jawad, as you already know, that Prime Minister has already stated that in order to bring the change or the development model that Chinese have adopted, it is necessary to bring governance changes in Pakistan and bring good governance. China is known for good governance. One of the primary factor that will bring political stability and economic prosperity is the factor of good governance. There is a lot of literature on the subject of good governance. There is criticism on Chinese political system and economic model and on other issues. But the only factor that stand alone above any other country, it is their model of good governance. So along with industrialization and technology and other areas that Pakistan want to replicate Chinese model, it is also necessary that we produce has good governance in Pakistan as it is in China.
So to understand good governance in a holistic manner, what are those broader contours where to actually start from to bring in that good governance? We've also seen during this very visit, Prime Minister has also made statement regarding as to the efforts the authorities here in Pakistan are focusing on improving the governance system here.
True. Again, good governance is first thing, it comes from your strategic clarity, that you are strategically clear with your policy and your direction, that what you want to do as a nation. What is the objective of your specific policy? Where do you want to see yourself in the next 20 years? That strategic clarity. The next thing is then the execution of that policy, that strategic vision into policy. Then when it comes to implementation, it should be implemented in its true spirit. That is what good governance means. That what strategic vision we have, it go all the way down to the bottom and replicated in its true sense. That is what good governance is.
Execution of the policy. Let me bring in another participant in the show. We are honored to have been joined on the phone line by Dr. Yasir Masood, is Foreign Affairs expert and former Director Media and Publications at CPAC Center of Excellence. Dr. Masood, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. But looking at this particular statement made by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif during his address at the Pakistan Friendship and Business Forum, that Pakistan has to be made a great country to regain that position in the Committee of Nations by following the China's development model. As per your understanding, what is the China's development model and what's there for Pakistan, and how Pakistan can actually replicate it to gain that position in the Committee of Nations?
Well, thank you for having me, Tehami, on the show. It's a very important question, because considering the fact that our economy has been in doldrums for quite some time. And I think this visit is quite significant, because we have seen a major halt in China-Pakistan economic corridor, different projects for quite some time. And I think that we are already in the second phase of the China-Pakistan economic corridor, which means that this is the time to reap benefits from the CPAC, also to get as much dividends as possible. And let me tell you a fact that a couple of months back, I was on a visit to Jawad, and the people are actually still very much concerned about different projects, because they haven't seen the trickle-down effect to the masses. And when we talk about CPAC or other bilateral projects between China and Pakistan, I think the recipe of success would be when we see a kind of transition in people's life. And that's what the real purpose of CPAC is. Holistically speaking, this is also the real purpose of the Belt and Road Initiative. But unfortunately, we haven't seen it yet. But considering the second phase, why it is so much important? In the first phase, yes, we have worked on the infrastructure and energy sector. But I think the second phase is very important, because Pakistan is still considered a least country in terms of industrialization. Not only Pakistan, but entire South Asia. And let me tell you that even African countries are better connected than South Asian countries. So this whole region actually needs connectivity. And then we are miles away from the industrialization, and no economy can grow without the industrialization, which we desperately need right now. You spoke about the development model of China. It's absolutely amazing, considering the fact that since the China's opening up, we have seen the immense development in terms of the Belt and Road Initiative. All credit goes to Chinese leadership and their governance structure. Now China is working on its innovation and technology. And you also mentioned that what's in it for Pakistan. I think there is everything in it for Pakistan because, of course, no model can be replicated in true letter and spirit, and it will not be workable anyway. So what China did, they also replicated certain models from different countries, but then they named it with Chinese characteristics. So we can also replicate China's model with Pakistani characteristics because every country has its own dynamics, its own geography, and its own history. But, of course, we can replicate the model, and we can learn from the recipes of just 40 years back. Like, for example, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said in Shenzhen that just 40 years ago, Shenzhen was a small fishing village. And now it is one of the best examples in the world that how through the special economic zone like Shenzhen has developed and grown over the years. Same can be replicated in different parts of Pakistan. So now China is working on innovation, they're working on technology, and this offers Pakistan a leapfrog in areas, for example, like artificial intelligence, telecommunications, and digital infrastructure. And as you know, 5G is working in China that can bolster Pakistan's connectivity and digital economy. For example, like there are areas of where growth can be seen in e-commerce. And Pakistan is still a kind of a barren or a virgin economy where there is so much room for improvement and growth. For example, we haven't even worked on the startups. So there are new 100 startups could be initiated in Pakistan. And of course, China is a big help because not only in terms of investment opportunities, but also the technicalities and the which China has achieved over the years. There are few areas for any developing state. For example, the developing states lack investment, they lack technical help, and they lack infrastructure. So these are major few areas which every developing economy actually strive for in terms of its growth. So I think China is providing Pakistan a big help over the years now. And this strategic partnership is growing over the years from a friendship to brotherhood. And now I think this visit will prove to be another milestone for Pakistan's economy.
Right. Dr. Masood, you already talked about the comparison that has been made by Prime Minister regarding Shenzhen and the swift transformation of this particular Chinese city, which has been termed as the miracle of the century. Now, what was the driving factor in the transformation of this particular city, and how Pakistan can actually replicate that in future?
Well, what Pakistan is lacking, I think what Pakistan is lacking over the years now is the lack of the true governance, as my colleague just mentioned, the reform and opening up, which China has been doing since the opening up of the era of Deng Xiaoping, and then they have further reformed their system, their economic system. We need economic reform. We need constitutional reforms. We need institutional reforms. We need educational reforms. I think that's where Pakistan is still lacking. And why Shenzhen has proved to be a recipe of success, not only for China, but for other states as well, because they have opened up their policies according to the needs of the people and according to the needs of the smart urban infrastructure. So I think that's what is needed for Pakistan is to make reforms into Pakistan's system, into its economic system in particular, because that will bring a sea change. For example, Gwadar is easily comparable to Shenzhen, because Shenzhen was just like Gwadar 40 years ago. Shenzhen was of the same situation. Same can be replicated, but with Pakistani characteristics and with opening up and reforms in Pakistan's system.
Right, Dr. Masood, you already talked about the trickle-down effect to the general message, the grassroots levels of those dividends. When we specifically talk about the phase one of China-Pakistan economic corridor, there had been some successes for as the vast number of motorways and highways that were made, and also the addition of over 6,000 megawatts of electricity into the national grid. Also, the incoming of the foreign direct investment. How do you summarize what have been the major successes in the first decade of the CPAC?
I think there are quite a number of significant successes when we talk about the first phase, because if we turn the clock back to the time of 2013 or 2015, Pakistan was struggling with its economy, of course, and then we had multifaceted issues, like we were having a go at extremism, militancy, and terrorism, and there was no country which was investing in Pakistan. So I think on part of Chinese government, on part of Chinese people, and their trust and friendship, that they invested in Pakistan. That is why when the $62 billion news came up, how happy the Pakistanis were, because that was a humongous kind of investment being promised and pledged for Pakistan. So I think China helped Pakistan at a time when Pakistan was at a critical juncture. Then, for any developing states, as I mentioned, that energy and infrastructure are two major areas where an economy can grow. So I think there were places in different parts of Pakistan. We were having electricity issues for 18 hours or even 20 hours. So we successfully came out of this. Now Pakistan is at least considered as an energy sufficient country from an energy deficient country back in 2013 and 2015. And you also mentioned that the infrastructure is much better now. So I think we have made progress on the breeding ground, which was very important. Now we are up against we are already in the second phase. I mentioned about industrialization and technical innovation and
to
technology.
interject over here. I'll come back to you to have your understanding regarding as to the prospects and the potential of the second phase of the CPAC, and also the key areas that would be focused and collaborated upon between Pakistan and China when it comes to phase two of the CPAC. Please stay with us. For now, we are honored to have been joined by another participant, Ms. Zoon Ahmed Khan, Research Fellow, Center for China and Globalization. Zoon, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. Now, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif talking of making Pakistan a great nation, to regain that standing in the Committee of Nations by following the China's development model. You're there in China with your eyes, you're firsthand seeing how this particular development has been unfolding. Could you elaborate for our viewers what were the major driving factors as far as the China's development model is concerned?
Okay, thank you again for having me on the program. And I was listening in to Dr. Yasir Masood's intervention, and it was also, very important and holistic. So I'll try in my best capacity to add further to that. I think, one of the things that China also benefited from, as was previously mentioned, was, of course, very consistent policies. And this is one of the things that Chinese businesses or journalists, whoever being here in Beijing for about 9 years almost now, this is something that really comes up, that consistency of policies was something that really expedited China's economic development over the past 40 years. There was also an aspect of, understanding what are the particular models that are working for specific regions within China. So, for example, what worked for Shenzhen did not work for Shanghai or Zhejiang, etc., etc. There was another factor that, we talk a lot about trickle down. And this is something that China experienced as well, because initially, when the 1978 reform and opening up happened, the first phase, the first 6, 7, 8 years saw a lot of development and growth in the southeastern parts of China. This is also, I mean, even when we look at Shenzhen's miraculous growth, it is also linked with the economic synergy, connectivity of the entire region, by which we mean ASEAN in particular. So we saw, I mean, there was obviously a synergy between China's reforms, capital, becoming a more capital-oriented economy, becoming more open to foreign investment, becoming more receptive to what the global demands are and trying in their best way to meet it. Also making sure that different provinces have unique strategies that are suitable for their unique advantages, their unique, as we say, natural advantages, right? But another thing was that after 5, 10, 15 years, I mean, there was a focus on balanced development. So the affirmative action policy started in the 1990s. So we see that even for Pakistan, there are certain regions that have a relative advantage, and there are certain regions that require some affirmative action. So I think we can learn a lot from China's development by firstly understanding that we need consistency of policies. We need all of the political parties to have a consensus on economic policies and on the priorities within the China-Pakistan economic corridor. So we have every stakeholder in Pakistan supports CPEC, supports deeper cooperation with China. But what we need is to ensure that today's investors are confident that 5, 10, 15 years down the road, they can trust the policies that have been brought forward today. So this is one thing Pakistan can learn from. And another is that maybe Gwadar can become Shenzhen. But obviously, we don't have the exact situation for Gwadar that Shenzhen had. So while we do learn a lot from Shenzhen, it is also important to understand how Gwadar is unique, different. Maybe certain aspects of Gwadar can learn more from a different port city. Zhejiang, Ningbo could be perhaps an excellent example for Gwadar as well, because there's also a lot of fishing agriculture happening in Ningbo, and Ningbo is one of the key ports of China. It is also a very developed city. So maybe that's also a good template for Gwadar to follow. So I think in that sense, what we need is that every special economic zone, every major project has a task force which is connecting with Chinese counterparts. First of all, studying the strengths and understanding the unique situation of whatever that special economic zone or city is, that project is, and then connecting with Chinese counterparts to see how should we learn, what should we learn from the Chinese model based on it. So I can go on, but your next question, and then let's continue.
That was the second part of your take. That was exactly the point that I was about to come, equating Shenzhen with Gwadar, the potential of Gwadar. Let me take that very point to Mr. Bazai. Dr. Bazai, when we talk about equating Shenzhen with Gwadar, the potential, the prospects, the dividends associated with Gwadar port, how do you look at that?
I mean, Gwadar has no doubt one of the biggest gift in Pakistan's geostrategic location. The entire concept of CPEC is connected with Gwadar. If there was no Gwadar, we might not have been having the infrastructure of CPEC. So we cannot underestimate the importance of Gwadar. But it is unfortunate. Definitely, it has the potential, but it depends upon the overall strategic direction of Pakistan, the economic growth of Pakistan. Once we have, like this time, now we can see that there is a clear decision in Pakistan to focus on economy rather than any other issue. You can see the composition of delegation, you can see the focus of delegation, you can see their activities. They went to China with one point agenda, that is investment, and taking economic relationship with China to new heights. So for that, Gwadar is one of the best opportunity for us to project it internationally. When
we talk about the point which has been raised by Zoon already, that synergy and connectivity, when we apply this particular thing to the Gwadar port, and also that particular phenomenon of being unique, what's there that makes Gawad unique, that could make it stand out in the future, that could bring in the best of the dividends for Pakistan?
I mean, again, its location, that it is located on a point in Indian Ocean where you can have trade relationship. I mean, that is protecting you from any kind of blockade. Then one of the major concern of China, especially in the developing scenario in international system, as we can see it is any kind of future tension with Western countries. So in that scenario, Gawad would be providing a best opportunity to China to connect to avoid any kind of blockade.
Right, Zoon. Now talking about the unique element or the factor associated with Gawad that could bring in a huge dividend for Pakistan, being a very strategically placed important element as far as CPEC is concerned. What's that unique factor?
I would say potential regional connectivity. The potential of Gwadar, which is actually the most efficient route for Central Asian countries and then Afghanistan through Pakistan to have access to the Middle Eastern and the East African markets. I think that is actually Gwadar's unique advantage, very unique advantage. It is an efficient way for the region to connect. And I think this is something that we have also reiterated as Pakistan. We are part of regional platforms, we are part of regional plans and pipelines, that are talking about strengthened regional connectivity and its impact on security of the region, of the entire region. We also completely synergize and agree with China when we say that the root causes are basically going to be addressed when we improve the socioeconomic situation, the socioeconomic conditions of the region, which will be a direct consequence of cultural, transportational, otherwise trade connectivity, right? So I think that is actually Gwadar. Of course, yes, as was mentioned by the previous panelists, yes, Gwadar can and does offer potentially, once we have those train rail linkages through China directly to Gwadar, to access the ocean, the Indian Ocean, and then have access to the Middle Eastern markets. Of course, China is a major importer of crude oil, and China has been deepening its trade and otherwise strategic relations with the Middle Eastern countries as well. So that is a very important factor too. But I think definitely if we are able to expand Gwadar's access to the landlocked region, which is north of Pakistan, then that can be a very important factor. And I would also like to add that absolutely we should learn from Shenzhen's example, but again there are other port cities as well which can serve as good examples to figure out what aspects of their development are suitable to Gwadar. So instead of, I think we do admire Shenzhen, and yes, it's quite interesting that Shenzhen has the same history and 4 decades of development is what has made Shenzhen what it is today. But I don't know if 40 years ago or 35 years ago, Shenzhen was precisely trying to replicate another success in the region or not. Maybe that is something we should look into. Maybe they were admiring another example and working towards that, but they outpaced that example, whatever it was. So I see no reason 3 decades down the road with the right policies, with the right regional synergy, why Gwadar cannot be a miracle of its own. And that's why I say, let's look at Shenzhen, but let's look at other examples as well that could provide a good, suitable roadmap for Gwadar.
Right. Dr. Masood, before I come to you to understand what are the prospects and the potential when you talk about the key sectors which would be focused upon in the China-Pakistan Economic Corridors Phase 2. When we talk about CPEC as an overall, we discuss all the time the kind of dividends and the benefits Pakistan would be getting in the longer run as well. As far as win-win cooperation is concerned, when it comes to the bilateral relationship or the partnership as far as CPEC itself is concerned between China and Pakistan, what's the Chinese perspective?
Is the question posed from me?
Dr. Masood, yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Let me first reiterate the fact, which I mentioned a couple of times, that no system could be replicated in its true letter and spirit. Of course, every country has its own dynamics. If somehow Gawad is comparable. So I would like to mention this point first. You mentioned about the uniqueness of Gawad. In simple terms, sometimes it is being called as the sine qua non of CPEC, and CPEC is called the sine qua non of the Belt and Road Initiative. It is full of uniqueness. Let me give you the best example that in this day and age, we are living in the world where countries need hydrocarbon reserves. And what advantage China will have, it will cut down China's distance from 12,000 kilometers of reaching to warm waters or to Central Asia through South China Sea to 3,000 kilometers. It's a matter of few days from when we see from the distance from Xinjiang to Gawad. This is the most unique thing about Gawad because of its connectivity, the shortest route to Central Asia, to Middle Eastern countries and beyond. And then hydrocarbon reserves are, of course, important for China as well as for other developed and underdeveloped states. There are more than 400 different kinds of fish in Gawad. Gawad could be a port which has immense potential for fishery in Gawad. Of course, we can learn from China in that particular manner. And then in 5,000 years of Indus Valley civilization, China is the only country under the sun which reached to warm waters with a proposition of win-win cooperation with the concept of community of shared destiny. So with all its manifestations, Gawad offers a huge potential for Pakistan's economy and for Pakistan's growth. And analysts from around the world have commented about Gawad, that how much potential it has. Then I will come up to your question. Could you please repeat your question again?
That was exactly the question that you already answered, Dr. Masood. Let me go to Dr. Bazai. Now, you've already given your take regarding the potential of Gawad. So when we talk about the win-win cooperation, of course, the benefits and the dividends for Pakistan, by looking at it from the Chinese lens, what's your understanding?
I mean, definitely there are many things are taking place on Chinese scenario. China is a much bigger country. They are playing at a different level. So it is a time for Pakistan to become an asset for China. So we must be now at the time, we are having the opportunity, we are blessed to have a country like China with which we have strategic relationship. We can take many assistance from China. We can learn from their model. We can allow them, we can invite them to invest in Pakistan. So in this region, definitely China has bigger game to play, as it is already having a trade competition with the West, with the United States, and focus on connecting Africa and the entire region. What Pakistan can do in this situation, we can now produce a model to Chinese investment to make it a very successful investment for them. At the end of the day, if this investment is not successful for Chinese investment at the state level, it is possible that we will continue this thing for some time, but to make it sustainable, it is necessary to make environment investment friendly, to create that ecosystem for economic activity within the country to attract private investment from China. Once we succeed in attracting foreign private investment from Middle East and Chinese investor, that would be the start of our sustainable development. And that is what is the objective.
Where do you see the Chinese investors would be most interested in as far as their investment in Pakistan is concerned, especially during the CPEC phase 2?
Yes, like in CPEC phase 2, in the phase 1, it was, as it was already mentioned, that it was mostly invested on infrastructure and energy. In second phase, there is strong potential in Pakistan industry, there is strong potential in Pakistan agriculture, there is strong potential in IT sector. In Pakistan economy is still a virgin economy, there is not that much competition, so it is a win-win situation for both countries. Once we create that ecosystem, I am 100% sure that we will be having overwhelming response from Chinese IT, industry and agricultural sector investment in Pakistani corresponding sectors.
Right, Dr. Masood, now talking about ease of doing business, what does that mean to you when we talk specifically through the lens of CPEC? And where do you think the Chinese investors would be most interested in as far as putting in investment in Pakistan is concerned?
I think when we talk about ease of doing business, it's very important, and I would again repeat the fact that actually we need one window operation, and developing countries do create a climate of friendly business environment, because this is direly needed, especially in case of Pakistan, because we are up against challenges as far as our economy is concerned.
A single window operation.
On the ease of doing business, the better it would be for Pakistan, because there is a huge potential. And as I mentioned, there are many areas where Pakistan can really make this project, not only CPEC, but with cooperation with China, we can really make it a win-win cooperation in its true letter.
Right. Zoon, now more than 300 MOUs have been signed between Pakistan and China. What does that basically signify during this Pakistan-China business friendship and business forum?
I think it obviously signifies the willingness on both sides, the keenness on both sides to work together. I will also quickly add that yes,
it's not 300. I see your partner is 30. I stand corrected, is 32.
32 MOUs, absolutely. There are 32 MOUs, but there have been, I don't know the exact number since 2015, but there may as well be a total 300 MOUs signed so far between China and Pakistan. I don't know the exact number either, to be very honest, but 32 MOUs this time. And I'll quickly, go over some of the points that were briefly mentioned by the previous speakers. They have been worked on. For example, IT is a very important sector that we want to work on. It's a fast growing. We want to improve our capacity to train young people, which is where Huawei, which was the first leg of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's China visit, was also part of it, was to visit Huawei, and they have committed to training 200,000 Pakistani youth in IT, in emerging technologies, to be able to support this sector. I'm not yet sure whether this is a 5 or 10 year plan or what's the duration, but the MOUs definitely show intent. Again, we also have some commitment on Huawei supporting Pakistan's quest towards smart cities, e-governance. These are things that China is also proactively working on, again, with the support of big SOEs or big companies such as Huawei. We also have already a Transsion corporation, which is also based in Shenzhen, that has already employed 5,000 Pakistanis, and they're manufacturing mobiles. The next step that we have signed commitments on already is that we might be manufacturing e-bikes. More mobiles, other, high-tech, higher value-added products that Pakistan can consume and also export. And then we have, in investment in agriculture. Again, agriculture is a sector where we have made 6% growth, and it is employing a major number of Pakistanis. It has the most socioeconomic, or what we call a trickle-down impact, right? So I think MOUs definitely show a positive commitment, a positive direction, but I do believe that the number of MOUs is not necessarily reflective of the degree to which we are achieving cooperation, that is making sure we have certain amount of investment, and investment interest is definitely reflected by MOUs, but practically we should trace, I think this is something that media, people in general, think tanks should work on. How have the MOUs made progress on tangible outcomes? This is something we as Pakistan really need to do.
So this is something different from the signing of MOUs, this signing of the framework agreement between Huawei and Pakistan's Ministry of Science and Technology, under which the company would impact free of charge training, as you've already mentioned, to around 200,000 youngsters. Isn't that significant enough?
It is significant.
As in one of your earlier takes in our programs, you talked about training the youth appropriately as per the requirement. So this figure, Isn't it huge, 200,000?
It is huge. Yes, yes. We should. I mean, this is really a moment, and I think this is a moment that we as Pakistan should feel immensely proud of as well. That we were able to. I mean, this delegation has been able to achieve this outcome. So it was the Prime Minister, more than 100.
Training
Yeah,
200,000 youngsters here in Pakistan.
Yes,
What would
yes.
it be bringing in future? What would be the manifestation of that?
I mean, how it will play out, I think we already in China have these kinds of trainings for youngsters. I think that's probably going to be the process. Maybe we will have delegations of youth being recruited by local governments or universities, and then them traveling to China or trainers coming over. What that looks like is that we are really building our capacity to be self-sufficient in this emerging sector. And I think this is precisely what we talk about when we say technology transfer, skills
Dr.
transfer.
Bazai also unfortunately would be short of time. Dr. Bazai, you have to make a point regarding this huge number of youngsters who are going to be trained free of charge by Huawei.
If we
The manifestation of it.
it would be immensely, it would be a landscape change. It would be a significant change. I mean, if you succeed in training 200,000 students or graduate in IT, that would immensely increase your foreign remittances.
Unleash what? It would
They would be
unleash what?
bringing IT revolution in your economy, in your education system, in your production, in your governance. That is what we are lacking. That is what we need. Once we move from degree to skill to IT, that would not only address our domestic production problem, but would also bring a lot of dollar and remittances in form of IT graduate who will be working in the form of freelancers.
Dr. Masood, a very quick comment regarding as to what, as per your understanding, is the manifestation going to be when we will be seeing, or Pakistan would be seeing, 200,000 people trained by Huawei?
This is a very significant achievement on part of Huawei, and we are really looking forward that Pakistan is considered one of the youngest population in the world. Around 64% of Pakistan's population is below 32 years of age. And I mentioned about the technical education and technology and innovation which China has achieved over the years now. I think there is a big room for our youth to learn and then emulate the same practices in Pakistan. I think it would be a big boost for Pakistan's economy, as well as I think there is one more potential in China because their population needs, their work needs younger population from different parts of the country, world. So Pakistan can offer, a big plus in this area as well, where Pakistani youth can be trained, can learn Chinese language, and can, of course, create a win-win situation for Pakistan as well as for China.
Dr. Yasir Masood, Foreign Affairs expert, former Director, Media and Publications, CPAC Center of Excellence. Thank you very much for taking time out and joining us on the phone line. Zoon Ahmad Khan, Research Fellow, Center for China and Globalization. Thank you very much for your time also. In the studio, we were joined by Dr. Fida Bazai, expert in international relations. Thank you very much for your time also for joining us on Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's show. Till the next one, take good care.